The sun was setting over the small town of Riverdale as Maria wiped down another sticky table at Hal's diner. The evening rush had just ended, leaving behind the usual mess of ketchup stains, crumpled napkins, and forgotten coins. Her feet ached from the 8-hour shift and her back screamed for rest, but Maria couldn't stop yet. She had one more hour to go before she could head back to her tiny apartment. At 22, Maria wasn't where she had hoped to be. Growing up in a household where money was always tight, she had promised herself a different future. She had worked hard through high school, earning a partial scholarship to the local community college. But when her mom got sick last year, those carefully laid plans began to crumble. The medical bills piled up, and Maria had no choice but to pick up more shifts at the diner and cut back on her classes. Now she was taking just 2 courses per semester instead of 5, stretching her 2-year degree into 4. Some nights like tonight, the weight of it all made her chest tight. But she kept moving, kept cleaning, kept smiling at customers who rarely bothered to look her in the eye. The bell above the door jingled, and Maria glanced up to see a familiar pair walk in. The man, tall with tired eyes and work-roughened hands, was holding the small hand of a little girl with braided hair and a backpack almost as big as she was. Maria knew them, not by name but by routine. They came in every Tuesday evening around this time. The man wore the same faded blue jacket, and the girl always brought a well-loved stuffed rabbit that sat beside her on the booth. "Table for 2, please," the man said with a polite nod. "Right this way," Maria replied, grabbing 2 menus and leading them to their usual spot by the window. She had noticed things about them over the weeks. How the man always ordered 1 large meal and an extra plate. How he would carefully divide the food, sliding most of it onto his daughter's dish while pretending to keep the larger portion for himself. How his eyes lit up when the little girl talked about her day at school. How sometimes, when he thought no one was looking, his shoulders would slump with a weariness Maria recognized all too well. "What can I get for you today?" Maria asked, pen poised over her notepad. "Can we have the meatloaf special with extra mashed potatoes?" the man asked, looking at his daughter. "That sound good to you, Lily?" The little girl nodded, her braids bouncing. "And can I have chocolate milk?" "Water for me," the man added. "And just the 1 meal with an extra plate, please." Maria jotted down their order. Coming right up. As she walked to the kitchen, she couldn't help but glance back at them. They had a quiet contentment about them, despite what seemed to be their own struggles. The man was helping Lily with what looked like math homework, his brow furrowed in concentration. Maria punched in their order and leaned against the counter for a moment, trying to ignore the gnawing in her own stomach. She had skipped lunch today. Her refrigerator at home contained nothing but a half-empty bottle of ketchup and some questionable milk. Her next paycheck wasn't for 3 more days, and her last $20 had gone to a textbook she needed for class. "Order up for table 7, the cook called, sliding a plate across the counter. Maria served a few other tables before the meatloaf special was ready. She carried it to the father and daughter along with an extra plate and utensils. "Here you go," she said, setting everything down. "Can I get you anything else?" "This looks great, thank you," the man replied. Then turning to his daughter, "How does that look, Lily Bean? Good dinner tonight, huh?" The little girl's eyes widened at the steaming plate of food. "Can I have the corner piece of meatloaf, Dad?" "Of course, honey." He carefully cut the meatloaf, giving her the corner piece along with a generous scoop of mashed potatoes and green beans. Maria left them to their meal, continuing her rounds of the diner. Every now and then she would pass their table and overhear snippets of conversation. "And then Ms. Chen said my drawing was creative," Lily was saying, her small hands gesturing excitedly. "That's wonderful," her father replied. "Maybe we can frame it and put it up in the kitchen? Next to Mom's picture?" Lily asked, her voice suddenly quieter. The man's face softened. "That's a perfect place for it." Maria turned away, feeling like she was intruding on something private. She busied herself with refilling salt shakers and checking on her other tables, but her mind kept drifting back to her empty apartment and emptier stomach. When the dinner rush slowed to a trickle, Maria noticed that the man and his daughter were preparing to leave. The man was carefully packing up Lily's schoolwork while she hugged her stuffed rabbit. On their table sat a takeout container, which the man had filled with their leftovers, almost half the meal. Maria had noticed this habit too. Unlike many customers who left food to be thrown away, he always took home every scrap. As they stood to leave, the man tucked some bills under his water glass, always exact change plus a modest but consistent tip. Maria approached to clear their table as they headed toward the door. "Have a good night," she called after them. The man turned and smiled. "You too." Maria watched them leave, then looked down at the remains of their meal. A few crumbs, some water rings, and the bills left as payment. She picked up the money and put it in her apron pocket, then began clearing the dishes. Her stomach growled again, louder this time. The cook had already gone home, and the diner's policy was clear. Employees didn't get to eat the leftover food. Too many had abused the privilege in the past, the manager had explained, ordering extra just to take it home. Through the window, Maria could see the man strapping Lily into the back seat of an older model car. The takeout container sat on the roof of the car while he made sure his daughter was secure. Before she could second-guess herself, Maria untied her apron and headed for the door. "Taking my break," she called to the only other server on duty, a middle-aged woman named Darlene who barely looked up from her phone. Outside, the evening air was cool against Maria's skin. The parking lot was poorly lit, with just one flickering lamppost casting shadows across the cracked asphalt. The man was just closing Lily's door when Maria approached. "Excuse me," she said, her voice smaller than she intended. He turned, surprised. "Yes?" Now that she was standing in front of him, Maria's courage began to falter. What was she doing? This was embarrassing. Humiliating even, but the thought of another night with nothing to eat pushed her forward. "I'm sorry to bother you," she began, her cheeks burning. "I noticed you have some leftovers, and I was wondering, if you weren't going to eat all of it." She trailed off, unable to finish the question. The man looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable in the dim light. Maria wanted to disappear. This had been a terrible idea. "I'm so sorry," she said quickly. "Never mind. Have a good night." She turned to go back inside. "Wait," the man called after her. Maria stopped but couldn't bring herself to turn around. "Are you hungry?" he asked, his voice gentle and free of judgment. Slowly, Maria nodded, still facing away from him. Behind her, she heard the sound of a car door opening and closing, followed by footsteps approaching. The man came into view holding the takeout container. "My name's James," he said, extending his hand with the container, "and I'd be happy to share." Maria looked up at him, expecting to see pity or disgust. Instead, she found only kindness in his tired eyes. Something about that kindness made her throat tight and her eyes sting. "I'm Maria," she managed to say, carefully taking the offered food. "Thank you. Dad?" Lily's voice came from inside the car. "What's happening?" "Just talking to Maria for a minute, sweetie," James called back. Then turning to Maria, "Is everything okay? Besides being hungry right now?" Maria clutched the warm container to her chest. "It's just been a rough month," she said. "But I'm okay. Really." James seemed to consider her words, looking back at his daughter in the car and then at Maria again. "We all have rough months," he said finally. "Sometimes rough years." "Yeah," Maria agreed softly. "Thanks again for this. I should get back inside before my manager notices I'm gone." James nodded. "Take care of yourself, Maria." As she turned to go, Maria felt a strange mix of emotions: gratitude for the food, shame at having to ask for it, and something else she couldn't quite name. Perhaps it was recognition. In James's eyes, she had seen the same determination she felt every day, the will to keep going despite everything. She watched as James got into his car and drove away with Lily, the red taillights disappearing around the corner. Looking down at the container in her hand, still warm and heavy with food, Maria felt a small spark of something she hadn't felt in a long time, hope, and she had no idea that this small moment, this desperate request in a dimly lit parking lot, it would change everything. The leftovers from James and Lily had been the best meal Maria had eaten in weeks. She savored every bite in the diner's break room, trying to eat slowly despite her hunger. The meatloaf was still warm, the mashed potatoes creamy with a hint of garlic. Maria couldn't remember the last time food had tasted so good, though she knew it probably had more to do with her empty stomach than the diner's cooking. For the rest of her shift, Maria kept thinking about James and his daughter. There was something about them that stuck with her. Maybe it was the way James made sure Lily had enough to eat, or how they seemed to create their own little world in the busy diner, Or maybe it was simply that James had shown her kindness when she needed it most. 3 days later, Maria's paycheck finally arrived. It wasn't much after the rent came out, but at least she could buy some groceries. She filled her cart with the cheapest options: ramen noodles, a bag of rice, some beans, and a few vegetables that were on sale. It wasn't exciting, but it would keep her going until the next paycheck. The following Tuesday, Maria found herself watching the door more than usual. Around 6:30, just as she was beginning to think they might not come, the bell jingled and in walked James and Lily. The little girl spotted Maria immediately and waved, a shy smile on her face. James nodded in greeting as they were seated in Maria's section. "Hi again," Maria said, approaching their table with menus. "Nice to see you both." "You too," James replied. "How have you been?" The simple question caught Maria off guard. Customers rarely asked servers how they were doing, not really. They said, "How are you?" as a greeting, not expecting or wanting an honest answer. "I'm okay," Maria said, surprised at how good it felt to be asked. "Better this week." "Thank you again for, James shook his head. "No need to thank me. Anyone would have done the same." But Maria knew that wasn't true. Most people wouldn't have given a second thought to a server asking for their leftovers. They would have been uncomfortable, maybe even complained to the manager. James was different. "What can I get for you today?" she asked, changing the subject. "The chicken pot pie looks good," James said, looking at Lily. "What do you think, sweetheart?" Lily nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, please." "And chocolate milk?" "Coming right up," Maria said, writing down their order. "Just one pot pie with an extra plate?" "Actually," James said, "we're extra hungry today. Could we get 2 pot pies?" Maria looked up from her notepad, surprised. She had never seen them order more than one meal before. 2 pot pies, she repeated, writing it down. "I'll get those started for you." As she walked away, Maria couldn't help but wonder if James had ordered extra because of her. The thought made her cheeks burn with embarrassment. She didn't want to be a charity case, but when she brought their food out a little later, both James and Lily dug in with apparent appetite, each finishing their own meal. "No leftovers today?" Maria joked weakly as she cleared their plates. James looked up at her with those kind eyes. "Not today, but we're planning to come back Thursday. Lily has a good report card to celebrate." "Straight A's," Lily announced proudly, holding up a slightly crumpled paper with star stickers across the top. "That's amazing," Maria said genuinely. "You must be really smart," Lily beamed. "Dad helped me with my math." "She did all the hard work," James insisted, ruffling his daughter's hair. "I just helped explain a few things." Maria smiled at them both. "Well, congratulations. Maybe we can find a special dessert for you on Thursday to celebrate." As they left, Maria felt a strange mix of disappointment and relief. Disappointment that there had been no leftovers to offer her, though she had groceries now and wasn't as desperate, and relief that James hadn't made a point of trying to help her again. She didn't want to become someone he felt obligated to feed. Thursday came, and with it James and Lily as promised. This time they ordered the spaghetti and meatballs, just one serving to split, and Maria brought out a small ice cream sundae on the house for Lily's good report card. The manager raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. It was the first time Maria had used her employee discount for a customer. When they finished their meal, there was a substantial amount of spaghetti left. Maria watched as James requested a takeout container and carefully packed up the remaining food. As they prepared to leave, Maria approached to clear their table. "Enjoy the rest of your evening," she said. "The standard server farewell." James hesitated, then said in a low voice, "We're actually heading to the park across the street for a bit before going home. Lily likes to play on the swings before bedtime. If you get a break." He glanced at the takeout container, then back at Maria. Maria understood immediately. He was offering her the leftovers again, but in a way that preserved her dignity. "No handouts in the parking lot this time." "I get off in 20 minutes, she said quietly. James nodded. "We'll be there for at least half an hour. It's nice to let her burn off some energy before bed." After they left, Maria moved through her closing duties in a daze. She wiped down tables, refilled condiment bottles, and helped stock the to-go station, all while watching the clock. When her shift finally ended, she hung up her apron, said goodnight to the other staff, and walked out into the cool evening air. Across the street, the small neighborhood park was mostly empty as darkness fell, A street lamp illuminated the playground area, where Lily was climbing up the slide while James watched from a nearby bench. Maria hesitated at the edge of the park, suddenly unsure. Was this weird? Was she misreading the situation? Before she could turn around and go home, Lily spotted her and waved excitedly. "Maria, come see how high I can swing." No backing out now. Maria walked over, smiling at Lily's enthusiasm. "Hi there," she said, approaching the bench where James sat. "Hey," he replied, scooting over to make room. Just in time. Lily's attempting to break her personal swinging height record. Maria sat down, leaving a respectful distance between them. "She seems to have a lot of energy." "Too much sometimes," James said with a chuckle. Especially for a single dad trying to keep up. So he was a single father. Maria had suspected as much but hadn't known for sure. "Watch me, Dad," Lily called, pumping her legs to swing higher. "I see you, honey. Be careful," James called back, then turned to Maria. "How's school going?" Maria blinked in surprise. "How did you know I'm in school?" "The textbook," James explained. "I noticed you reading it during your break a couple of weeks ago." "Something about business management?" "Accounting," Maria corrected. "I'm studying to be an accountant, though at the rate I'm going, I'll be 50 before I graduate." "Why's that?" Maria hesitated, then decided there was no harm in telling him. "I can only afford to take a couple classes each semester, and sometimes I have to skip a semester altogether when money gets really tight." James nodded thoughtfully. "That's tough. But you're still going." "That says a lot from the swings," Lily called out again. "Dad, I'm hungry." James smiled apologetically at Maria. "Duty calls." He reached into a small backpack beside the bench and pulled out the takeout container. "Would you like to join us? There's plenty." Maria looked at the container, then at James. There was no pity in his eyes, only genuine invitation. "Are you sure? I don't want to intrude on your time with Lily." "You wouldn't be," James assured her. "Actually, it might be nice for Lily to see that grown-ups can make new friends too. She's had a hard time with that since we moved here last year." Friends. The word settled warmly in Maria's chest. When was the last time she had made a new friend? Between work and school and taking care of her mom before she passed, Maria's social life had dwindled to almost nothing. "Okay," she said finally. "Thank you." James called Lily over, and the three of them sat on the bench, passing the container of spaghetti between them. Lily chattered about school, her words tumbling out between bites. She told Maria about her best friend Zoe, and how they were both going to be veterinarians when they grew up. "That's a great job," Maria said. "I love animals too." "Do you have any pets?" Lily asked eagerly. Maria shook her head. "Not right now. My apartment doesn't allow them. But I had a cat named Whiskers when I was about your age." "I want a dog," Lily declared. "But Dad says we have to wait until we have a bigger place with a yard." "That's probably smart," Maria agreed. Dogs need space to run around. As they talked, Maria learned more about James and Lily. They had moved to Riverdale after James's wife, Lily's mother, had died from cancer 2 years ago. The medical bills had been overwhelming and they'd had to sell their house. James worked as a carpenter, taking whatever jobs he could find while making sure he was home when Lily got out of school. "It's not easy," he admitted quietly, while Lily was distracted by a ladybug crawling on the bench. "But we're making it work. One day at a time." Maria nodded, understanding completely. "That's all any of us can do, right?" As darkness fully settled over the park, James checked his watch. "We should probably get going, Lily Bean. It's almost bedtime." Lily pouted but didn't argue. She was clearly used to the routine. "It was nice talking with you," Maria said as they gathered their things. "Thank you for sharing your dinner." "We come here most Thursdays," James replied. "If you ever want to join us after your shift." "Well, we'd enjoy the company." Maria smiled, a genuine smile that felt foreign on her face after so many months of customer service fakery. "I'd like that." As she watched them walk toward their car, Lily's small hand in James's larger one, Maria felt something shift inside her. The simple act of sharing a meal, of talking about ordinary things with people who expected nothing in return. It had filled a hunger she hadn't even recognized. Walking back to her apartment that night, Maria didn't feel quite so alone, and for the first time in a long while, she looked forward to the week ahead. Little did she know that this humble beginning, this simple sharing of leftovers on a park bench, would lead to so much more. The park meetings became a regular thing. Every Thursday after Maria's shift, she would walk across the street to find James and Lily at their usual bench. Sometimes they brought food from the diner. Other times James packed simple sandwiches or snacks from home. Lily always greeted Maria with growing excitement, eager to share stories about school or show off a new playground trick. On this particular Thursday, 3 weeks into their new routine, dark clouds had gathered overhead, threatening rain. Maria hurried out of the diner, hoping to at least say hello before the weather forced everyone indoors. She spotted James alone on the bench, hunched forward with his elbows on his knees. "Hey," she called, approaching. "Where's Lily?" James looked up, his expression clearing somewhat when he saw her. "Sleepover at her friend Zoe's house. First one since, well, in a long time." Maria sat down beside him. "That's nice. Though you look like you're missing her already. Is it that obvious?" James smiled ruefully. "It's just strange, the house being empty. I got used to it always being the two of us." A fat raindrop landed on the bench between them, followed by another. "Looks like we're in for it," Maria observed. Looking up at the darkening sky, James stood gathering his jacket. "There's a coffee shop just down the block. Want to grab a cup before the downpour?" Maria hesitated. Coffee wasn't in her tight budget this week. As if reading her mind, James added, "My treat? To thank you for keeping me company without my usual chatterbox." "In that case," Maria said, "I won't say no to hot coffee." They made it to the coffee shop just as the rain began in earnest, water sluicing down the windows in sheets. The place was small and cozy, with mismatched furniture and local artwork on the walls. They ordered at the counter, a black coffee for James, a mocha for Maria, and found a quiet table in the corner. "So," James said after they'd settled in, "no classes tonight?" Maria shook her head. "Not this semester." She stared down at her coffee, not meeting his eyes. "Had to drop them. The tuition was due the same week my car needed repairs and, well, you can't get to work without a car." James nodded, understanding in his eyes. Education shouldn't be this hard to get. "No, it shouldn't," Maria agreed. "But here we are." They sipped their coffee in companionable silence for a moment, watching the rain outside. It was strange, Maria thought, how comfortable she felt with James. Usually she kept people at arm's length, too tired from work, and too stressed about money to invest energy in relationships. But there was something about James's quiet presence that didn't demand anything from her. "Can I ask you something?" James said suddenly. "Sure." "That first night in the parking lot." He hesitated. "How bad was it?" Maria looked down at her coffee again. "Pretty bad," she admitted. "My mom had passed away a few months before. The medical bills wiped out what little savings we had. I was behind on rent, had to drop my classes that semester, and my refrigerator was literally empty." She attempted a smile. "Not my finest moment, asking a stranger for leftovers." "I'm glad you asked," James said softly. "I probably wouldn't have had the courage in your position." "Desperation is a powerful motivator," Maria replied. "And honestly, I was too hungry to be embarrassed. Well, not too hungry. I was definitely embarrassed, but hunger won out." James chuckled, a warm sound that made Maria smile despite the heavy topic. "After Jenny, my wife, died," James said, "there were days I didn't think we'd make it. The hospital bills, the funeral costs. It was overwhelming. And taking care of Lily while trying to work enough to keep us afloat." He shook his head. "I remember standing in the grocery store one night looking at a package of chicken and trying to calculate if we could afford it that week." Maria nodded. She knew that feeling all too well. "What changed?" she asked. James took a sip of his coffee before answering. "People helped. Not in big ways, usually. A neighbor who'd watched Lily for free when I had a job. The school counselor who found a scholarship program for Lily's after-school activities. My boss who gave me flexible hours." He looked at Maria directly. "Small kindnesses add up." "They do," Maria agreed, thinking of the leftovers that had started this unlikely friendship. "What about your dad?" James asked. "Is he in the picture?" Maria shook her head. "Left when I was 4. Mom raised me by herself." "She did a good job," James said. "You're still standing, still fighting. That says a lot." "I'm not sure how much longer I can keep fighting," Maria admitted, surprising herself with her honesty. "Sometimes it feels like I'm just treading water, watching everyone else swim by." Outside lightning flashed, followed by a rumble of thunder. The rain pounded harder against the windows. I get that, James said. After Jenny died, I used to lie awake at night wondering how I was going to raise Lily by myself. How I could possibly be enough for her. You're doing an amazing job with her, Maria said sincerely. She's such a bright, happy kid. James smiled, pride momentarily replacing the weariness in his eyes. She's the best thing in my life. Everything I do is for her. She knows that, Maria assured him. It shows. They talked for another hour as the storm raged outside, their conversation flowing easily from serious topics to lighter ones. Maria learned that James had wanted to be an architect before life took him in a different direction. He now worked for a small construction company, but still designed and built furniture in his spare time. Maybe someday I'll go back to school, he said. When Lily's older and things are more stable. You should, Maria encouraged him. It's never too late. What about you? James asked. Why accounting? Maria shrugged. It's practical, stable, every business needs accountants. But is it what you love? The question caught her off guard. No one had asked her that in a long time. I don't know, she said honestly. I used to love art, drawing, painting, but that's not exactly a reliable career path. It could be, James suggested. Graphic design, illustration, art therapy, there are ways to make art your job. Maybe in another life, Maria said, shaking her head. Right now, I just need to finish this degree and get a job that pays the bills. James looked like he wanted to say more. But just then his phone buzzed with a text message. It's from Zoe's mom, he said, checking the screen. Lily wants to say goodnight. He smiled apologetically at Maria. Mind if I call her real quick? Of course not, Maria said. Go ahead. She watched as James called and spoke softly to his daughter, reassuring her that yes, he was fine on his own, and yes, she could stay all night at Zoe's, and no, Mr. Rabbit wouldn't be lonely because he had taken him along in her overnight bag. There was such tenderness in his voice, such patience. When he hung up, James looked slightly embarrassed. Sorry about that. First sleepover jitters. No need to apologize, Maria said. It's sweet. James glanced out the window. The rain had finally let up, though water still dripped from the awnings. Looks like our window of escape is opened. They gathered their things and stepped outside into the damp evening air. The storm had broken the earlier heat, leaving behind a pleasant coolness. Which way are you headed? James asked. Oakwood Apartments, Maria replied. About 6 blocks that way. I'm just a few blocks in the other direction, James said. But I can walk you home. It's getting dark. Maria started to protest that she would be fine, but something made her stop. It wasn't just about safety. She wasn't ready for their conversation to end. That would be nice, she said instead. Thanks. They walked in comfortable silence for a while, stepping around puddles that reflected the streetlights. The rain had driven most people indoors, leaving the streets quiet and peaceful. Can I ask you something else? James said as they waited for a traffic light to change. Sure. How are things now? I mean, with money and everything. Are you doing okay? Maria considered deflecting the question, giving the standard I'm fine that she offered everyone else who asked. But James had shared so openly with her, and there was genuine concern in his eyes. It's still tight, she admitted. The car repairs wiped out my savings. I'm behind on a couple of bills, and I had to put off registering for next semester's classes. She attempted a smile. But I'm not asking strangers for leftovers anymore, so that's progress, right? James didn't smile back. Instead, he looked thoughtful, almost troubled. What? Maria asked. I just hate to think of you struggling when maybe I could help. Maria stiffened. I don't need charity, James. That's not what I meant, he said quickly. It's just... I've been meaning to talk to you about this anyway. The construction company I work for. They're looking for someone to help with office work. Just part-time. Maybe 15 hours a week, but it pays better than the diner. And the schedule would be flexible around your classes when you go back. Maria stopped walking, staring at him in the glow of a streetlight. Are you offering me a job? Not exactly, I can't hire people. But I can recommend you to my boss. He trusts my judgment. And honestly, they need the help. Their current system is a mess. But I don't have my accounting degree yet, Maria pointed out. You've taken some courses though, right? And you're smart and hardworking. That's really all they need for this position. James hesitated. Just think about it. No pressure. They had reached Maria's apartment building, a 3-story walk-up that had seen better days. A flickering security light illuminated the small parking lot where her ancient Honda sat with its mismatched door. "This is me," Maria said unnecessarily, gesturing to the building. "Will you think about it?" James pressed gently. "The job, I mean." Maria looked at him, trying to read his intentions. There was nothing there but genuine concern, a desire to help that had nothing to do with pity. "I'll think about it," she promised. "Good," James said with a smile. "And hey, same time next Thursday? Even if Lily has another sleepover, I'd still like to hang out, if you want to." "I'd like that," Maria said, surprised at how much she meant it. As she watched him walk away, hands in his pockets and shoulders slightly hunched against the damp air, Maria felt a strange flutter in her chest. It had been a long time since anyone had looked out for her this way, not since her mother got sick. Inside her small apartment, Maria kicked off her shoes and collapsed onto the sagging couch. The place was tiny and sparsely furnished, but it was clean and hers. On the coffee table sat her accounting textbook from last semester, a painful reminder of her stalled progress. She thought about James's job offer. Part of her wanted to refuse out of pride, to prove she could make it on her own. But the practical part of her knew this could be the break she needed, a better-paying job with flexible hours that might allow her to go back to school. As she drifted off to sleep that night, Maria realized something had changed. For the first time in years, she wasn't just thinking about how to survive tomorrow. She was thinking about what might be possible next month, next semester, next year, and it felt a lot like hope. The Miller construction office was housed in a converted warehouse on the edge of town. Maria stood outside, checking her reflection in the tinted windows. She had worn her nicest clothes, black slacks and a blue button-up shirt she usually saved for final exams. Her hair was pulled back neatly, and she had even dug out her mother's old pearl earrings for good luck. Taking a deep breath, she pushed open the door and stepped inside. The reception area was simple but welcoming, with comfortable chairs and framed photos of completed projects on the walls. A woman in her 50s looked up from behind a desk stacked with papers. "You must be Maria," she said with a warm smile. "I'm Pat. James told us you'd be coming in today." "Nice to meet you," Maria replied, trying to hide her nervousness. It had been a while since she'd interviewed for a job, and she desperately needed this one to work out. "Tom's waiting for you in his office," Pat said, pointing down a short hallway. "First door on the right. Don't let his gruffness scare you. He's a teddy bear underneath." Maria thanked her and headed toward the indicated door. She could hear James's voice as she approached, and the sound gave her courage. He had vouched for her after all. The least she could do was prove him right. She knocked lightly on the open door. Come in," called a deep voice. The office was small and cluttered, with blueprints spread across most available surfaces. Behind a desk piled with paperwork sat a large man with a salt and pepper beard. James stood beside him, pointing to something on a computer screen. "Ah, you're here," James said, looking up with a smile. "Tom, this is Maria Garcia, the one I was telling you about." Tom stood and extended a hand across the desk. His grip was firm, his expression evaluating but not unfriendly. "So you're the miracle worker who's going to sort out our bookkeeping mess," he said. Maria glanced at James, who gave her an encouraging nod. "I'll certainly try," she replied with more confidence than she felt. The interview was more relaxed than Maria had expected. Tom asked about her experience, her schooling, and her familiarity with various accounting software. He seemed more interested in her problem-solving approach than in her formal qualifications. "The truth is," Tom said, leaning back in his chair, "we're drowning in paperwork here. Pat's been trying to keep up, but with all the new projects coming in, she's stretched too thin. We need someone who can organize our invoicing, track expenses, and help with payroll. James says you're smart and detail-oriented." "He's been very kind," Maria said, glancing at James, who had stayed for the interview. "He's not kind. He's practical," Tom corrected with a chuckle. "James doesn't recommend people lightly. So can you start next Monday? 15 hours a week to begin with, spread over 3 mornings. We'll see how it goes from there." Maria blinked, surprised by the abruptness of the offer. "Yes, absolutely," she said quickly. "Thank you for the opportunity." "Thank James," Tom said, standing to indicate the interview was over. "And thank yourself for making a good impression. We need someone we can depend on here." As they left Tom's office, James gave Maria a thumbs up. "Told you he'd like you." That was the shortest interview I've ever had, Maria said, still processing what had happened. Tom's a good judge of character, James explained as they walked back to the reception area. He can tell you're the real deal. Pat handed Maria some paperwork to fill out for her employment records. Welcome to the team, honey. It'll be nice to have another woman around here. Too much testosterone in this place. Maria laughed, feeling a weight lifting from her shoulders. A new job. Better pay. Regular hours. It was more than she had dared to hope for. Outside, the autumn sun was warm on her face as she and James walked to the parking lot. I can't thank you enough, she told him. This is going to change everything for me. You earned it, James replied simply. I just made the introduction. Still, Maria insisted, this wouldn't have happened without you. James shrugged, clearly uncomfortable with the praise. We should celebrate. Are you free for dinner tonight? Lily's been asking when you're coming over. I make a pretty decent lasagna. The invitation caught Maria by surprise. Their friendship had mostly existed in the public spaces of the diner and the park. Going to James's home felt like crossing into new territory. I wouldn't want to impose, she began. It's not an imposition, James assured her. It would make Lily's day. And mine, he added with a hint of shyness that was new. Maria found herself smiling. Then I'd love to come. Should I bring anything? Just yourself, James said. We'll take care of the rest. James's house was small but charming, a modest one-story with a front porch and a yard just big enough for Lily to play in. Flower beds lined the walkway, though the plants looked a bit neglected. Jenny used to keep those up, James explained as he led Maria to the door. I try, but I don't exactly have a green thumb. Inside, the house was neat but lived in, with toys carefully corralled in baskets and family photos on the walls. The kitchen smelled wonderfully of tomato sauce and herbs. Maria, Lily came running from her bedroom, her face lighting up. Dad said you might come over. Do you want to see my room? I have a new poster of dolphins. Let Maria get settled first, Lilybean, James said with a laugh. She just got here. It's okay, Maria assured him, charmed by Lily's enthusiasm. I'd love to see your room. Lily grabbed her hand and pulled her down the hallway, chattering about dolphins and how they were the smartest animals in the ocean, even smarter than sharks. Her room was decorated in shades of blue and purple, with the promised dolphin poster taking pride of place over her bed. Dad got it for me after I got an A on my science test, Lily explained proudly. I'm going to be a marine biologist now. Not a vet. That's a great job, Maria said, sitting on the edge of the bed as Lily showed her various treasures. A collection of seashells, a stuffed dolphin, books about ocean creatures. Do you like the ocean? Lily asked. I do, Maria replied, though I haven't been there much. Just once when I was about your age. Lily's eyes widened. Only once? We have to go! Dad says we'll go next summer if he saves enough money. You could come too. From the kitchen, James called that dinner was almost ready. Come on, Lily said, grabbing Maria's hand again. Dad makes the best lasagna. He puts extra cheese on top, the way Mom taught him. At the mention of Lily's mother, Maria glanced at the framed photo on Lily's nightstand. A woman with Lily's same bright eyes smiled back, her arm around a younger Lily on what looked like a birthday. In the kitchen, James was setting the table, looking slightly nervous. I hope you like lasagna. It's one of the few things I can cook well. It smells amazing, Maria assured him. Dinner was lively, with Lily doing most of the talking. She told Maria about school, about her best friend Zoe, and about how she was going to have a dolphin cake for her next birthday. James caught Maria's eye over Lily's head, his expression a mix of apology and fondness. Lily, he said during a rare pause in his daughter's monologue, let's let Maria tell us about her day too. Oh, did you get the job? Lily asked, suddenly remembering. Dad said you were going to talk to Mr. Miller today. I did get the job, Maria confirmed. I start on Monday. That's so cool, Lily exclaimed. Does that mean we'll see you more often? Can she come to movie night, Dad? James looked embarrassed. Lily, Maria might have other plans. She has her own life. What's movie night? Maria asked, curious. Every Friday, Lily explained eagerly. We make popcorn and watch a movie in the living room with blankets and pillows. It's the best. Last week we watched Finding Nemo because I'm learning about the ocean. That sounds fun, Maria said sincerely. So you'll come? Lily pressed. Please? Maria looked to James, who seemed caught between wanting to protect her from his daughter's enthusiasm and hoping she'd say yes. "I'd love to," Maria said, surprising herself with how much she meant it. "If that's okay with your dad." "More than okay," James said softly. After dinner, Lily insisted on showing Maria the backyard, where James had built her a small but impressive treehouse. "He makes the coolest things," Lily explained, pointing out features like the rope ladder and tiny windows with real shutters. When it was time for Lily's bath and bedtime routine, Maria offered to help clean up the kitchen. She and James worked in comfortable silence, him washing while she dried and put things away. "I'm sorry about the movie night ambush," James said eventually. "Lily gets excited about including people in our traditions." "Don't apologize," Maria replied. "It's sweet. And I meant it. I'd really like to come." James looked at her, dish towel in hand. "You've been good for us, you know. Lily hasn't connected with many people since we moved here, and he hesitated. "It's been nice having another adult to talk to." "It's been nice for me too," Maria admitted. "I didn't realize how isolated I'd become until we started hanging out." They finished the dishes just as Lily called for her dad to read her bedtime story. James excused himself, and Maria took the opportunity to look around the living room more closely. There were photos everywhere: James and his late wife on their wedding day, Lily as a baby, the three of them at various outings and holidays. A family history documented on the walls. One photo in particular caught her attention: James teaching a much younger Lily to ride a bike, his face a perfect blend of pride and worry. It reminded Maria of her own mother, who had worn the same expression when teaching her to swim. "She finally settled down," James said, returning to the living room. "She was too excited about you being here." "She's a wonderful kid," Maria said sincerely. "The best," James agreed, his voice soft with pride. "I worry, though, about her growing up without a mother, about not being enough." "You're more than enough," Maria assured him. "Anyone can see how much you love her, how hard you work to give her a good life." James sank onto the couch, suddenly looking very tired. "Some days are harder than others." "Today was a good one." Maria sat beside him. "Because I got the job?" "Because you said yes to movie night," James corrected with a small smile. "It's been a long time since I invited anyone into our little world. It feels right." There was something in his voice, a warmth that made Maria's heart beat a little faster. She looked at him, really looked at him. The kind eyes, the strong hands that built beautiful things, the gentle way he spoke about his daughter. When had this happened? When had he become more than just the man who had shared his leftovers with her? "I should probably get going," she said, suddenly aware of how close they were sitting. "It's getting late." James nodded, though he seemed reluctant. "I'll drive you home." "You don't have to do that," Maria protested. "I can call a cab." "It's no trouble," James insisted. "Just let me check on Lily first." While James peeked in on his daughter, Maria gathered her things. The evening had been lovely, comfortable in a way she hadn't expected. Being in James and Lily's home felt natural, as if she belonged there somehow. The drive to her apartment was quiet, both of them lost in their own thoughts. When James pulled up in front of her building, he turned to face her. "Thank you for coming tonight," he said. "It meant a lot to Lily and to me." "Thank you for having me," Maria replied. "And for everything else. The job recommendation, the encouragement. It's been a long time since someone believed in me the way you do." "You make it easy to believe in you," James said simply. There was a moment, brief but electric, when Maria thought he might lean in closer, but then he smiled and said, "Good luck on Monday." "You're going to be great." "Thanks," Maria said, trying to hide her disappointment. "I'll see you at the diner on Tuesday?" "Wouldn't miss it," James promised. Maria watched as he drove away, confused by the mix of emotions swirling inside her. Gratitude, certainly. Friendship, yes. But also something more, something that both excited and terrified her. As she climbed the stairs to her apartment, Maria realized that what had started as a desperate request for leftovers had become something much more substantial. James and Lily were becoming important to her in ways she hadn't anticipated. And that was both wonderful and frightening, because people who mattered could also be lost. Her mother had taught her that lesson all too well. Inside her small apartment, Maria looked around with new eyes. The place that had felt like a refuge now seemed empty, lacking the warmth of James's home. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to want more than just survival, to want connection, family, belonging. As she got ready for bed, Maria's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from James. Lily wants to know if you like unicorns or dragons better. Important movie night planning question. Maria smiled, typing back, definitely dragons. His response came quickly. Good choice. Lily agrees. See you Tuesday. Such a simple exchange, yet it filled Maria with a happiness she had almost forgotten was possible. Whatever was happening between them, friendship or something more, she wasn't going to let fear hold her back. Not anymore. As she drifted off to sleep, Maria thought about how life could change in an instant. How a desperate request in a parking lot could lead to a job, a friendship, a possible future she couldn't yet fully imagine. More than leftovers. Indeed. 3 months had passed since Maria started working at Miller Construction. The crisp autumn days had given way to winter, and now the first hints of spring were appearing around town. Small green buds dotted the trees, and the air carried the promise of warmer days ahead. Maria walked into the office, greeting Pat with a smile as she hung up her coat. Her desk, an actual desk of her own, was neat and organized, a stark contrast to the chaos that had reigned when she first arrived. In just 3 months, she had transformed the company's bookkeeping system, created digital copies of all their important documents, and implemented a new invoicing process that had already improved their cash flow. Morning. Miracle worker, Tom called from his office. The nickname had stuck after her first month, when she had discovered a billing error that saved the company thousands of dollars. Morning, boss, Maria replied cheerfully. The vendor statements are ready for your review. Tom gave her a thumbs up and Maria settled in at her computer. What had started as a 15-hour-per-week position had gradually expanded to nearly full-time as Tom recognized her value to the company. The pay was good, enough that Maria had been able to re-enroll in classes for the spring semester, taking evening courses after work 3 days a week. Her phone buzzed with a text message from James. Lily's science fair project is trying to kill me. Send help and more glitter. Maria laughed, typing back. On my way after work. We'll bring reinforcements. Pizza. Their relationship had evolved in ways Maria had never expected. What began as Thursday park meetings had expanded to include Friday movie nights, Sunday afternoon outings, and impromptu dinner visits. Maria now had her own key to James's house. For emergencies, he had insisted, though they both knew it was more than that. They hadn't put a label on what they were to each other, but Maria knew she had never felt this way about anyone before. James was her best friend, her confidant, her favorite person to talk to at the end of a long day. And Lily, sweet, energetic Lily, had wrapped herself around Maria's heart with an ease that was both beautiful and terrifying. At 5 o'clock, Maria gathered her things and headed out. She stopped at Gino's Pizza on the way, picking up a large pepperoni, Lily's favorite, before driving to James's house. Her old Honda was running much better these days thanks to James's mechanic friend who had fixed it at a discount. She let herself in with her key, calling out, "Reinforcements have arrived." "Thank goodness," James called back from the kitchen. "We're in crisis mode back here." Maria found them at the kitchen table, which was covered in construction paper, markers, glue sticks, and what appeared to be several pounds of glitter. In the middle of it all stood a somewhat lopsided model of the solar system, with planets in various states of completion. "Maria," Lily jumped up, her hands sparkling with blue glitter. "Look at our solar system. I made Neptune all by myself." "It's amazing," Maria said sincerely, setting the pizza box on the counter. "You're quite the astronomer." "Dad helped with the structure," Lily explained, pointing to the wooden base James had clearly crafted. "But I'm doing all the planets and the research." James stood up, brushing glitter from his shirt. "I'm officially out of my depth with the scientific details. Did you know Pluto isn't even considered a planet anymore? My whole childhood was a lie." Maria laughed, reaching up to brush a streak of silver glitter from his cheek. "Poor Pluto, demoted to a dwarf planet." "The injustice," James agreed with mock seriousness. His hand caught hers as she lowered it, giving it a quick squeeze before letting go. These small touches had become more frequent between them. A hand on a shoulder, fingers brushing while passing dishes, a quick hug goodbye. Each one sent a jolt of warmth through Maria, making her wonder if James felt it too. Pizza first, Maria declared, then planet construction. Science works better on a full stomach. Over dinner, Lily chattered about her project, explaining how each planet would have a fact card detailing its unique features. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and Maria found herself offering suggestions about how to arrange the information. "You're so smart," Lily said admiringly. "Just like my mom was." She knew everything about science. A brief silence fell over the table. Lily rarely mentioned her mother so directly, and when she did, James always got a particular look, not exactly sad, but tender and thoughtful. "Your mom would be very proud of your project," James said gently. "And of how hard you're working on it." Lily nodded, taking another bite of pizza. Then, in the matter-of-fact way of children, she changed the subject entirely. "Can we have ice cream after we finish the planets?" "If we finish the planets," James corrected with a smile. "We still have a lot to do." "With Maria helping, we'll finish super fast," Lily said confidently. And she was right. With Maria's organizational skills, James's craftsmanship, and Lily's creative energy, the solar system model took shape over the next 2 hours. Maria helped Lily research facts for each planet, typing them neatly onto cards that James then mounted beside each orbiting sphere. By the time they were placing the final touches on distant Neptune, it was well past Lily's normal bedtime. But the completed project was worth it. A beautiful, scientifically accurate model that Lily could proudly present at her school's science fair. "Ice cream time," Lily declared triumphantly. 5-minute ice cream, James countered. "Then straight to bed, astronaut. You still have school tomorrow." While James dished out small bowls of chocolate ice cream, Maria helped Lily carefully move the solar system model to a safe spot in the living room. As they worked, Lily asked suddenly, "Maria, do you think you might stay over tonight?" The innocent question caught Maria by surprise. "Oh, I don't know, sweetie. I didn't bring any of my things." "You could use my toothbrush," Lily offered generously. "And I bet Dad has a t-shirt you could borrow." Maria felt her cheeks warm at the thought. "That's very sweet, but I should probably go home after ice cream." "But you could help make pancakes in the morning," Lily persisted. "Dad makes them in funny shapes, but they always end up looking like blobs." "Hey," James protested, returning with the ice cream. "My pancakes are artistic interpretations, not blobs." "They're blobs," Lily stage whispered to Maria, making her laugh. "What's this about pancakes?" James asked, passing out the bowls. "I was asking Maria to stay over so she could help with pancakes in the morning," Lily explained between bites of ice cream. She said no. James nearly choked on his ice cream, shooting Maria an apologetic look. "Lily, we can't just ask people to stay over. Maria has her own home to go to." "But she's here all the time anyway," Lily pointed out with impeccable child logic. "And she makes you happy. You smile more when she's here." Now it was Maria's turn to nearly choke. She looked at James, whose face had turned an interesting shade of red. "Okay, bedtime," he announced, standing up abruptly. "Say goodnight to Maria and go brush your teeth." "But I didn't finish my ice cream," Lily protested. "Take it with you." 2 minutes in the bathroom, then I'm coming in to help with pajamas." Lily sighed dramatically but obeyed, giving Maria a sticky hug before heading down the hallway, ice cream bowl in hand. When she was gone, James turned to Maria with an embarrassed smile. "Sorry about that. Kids and their lack of filters." "It's okay," Maria assured him, though her heart was beating faster than normal. "She's sweet." "She's right, though," James said quietly, meeting Maria's eyes. "I do smile more when you're here." The simple admission hung in the air between them, full of unspoken meaning. "I smile more too," Maria finally replied, her voice barely above a whisper. James took a step toward her, then hesitated as Lily called from the bathroom. "Dad, I need help with the toothpaste." "Duty calls," he said with a rueful smile. "Hold that thought." Maria nodded, her pulse still racing as he disappeared down the hallway. She busied herself with cleaning up the remaining craft supplies, trying to sort through her feelings. There had been moments like this before, moments when something more than friendship seemed about to be acknowledged. But each time life had interrupted, and they had slipped back into their comfortable routine. 20 minutes later, James returned to the living room. "She's finally asleep. Sorry that took so long. She needed 3 bedtime stories tonight." "No problem," Maria said, gesturing to the now tidy kitchen. "I kept busy." You didn't have to clean up, James protested, though he looked grateful. I wanted to. Maria shrugged. It's nice being able to help. James moved closer, stopping just in front of her. You do help. More than you know. These past few months having you in our lives, it's made all the difference. For me too, Maria admitted. I don't know where I'd be if you hadn't offered me your leftovers that night. James laughed softly. Best decision I ever made. And then finally, with no interruptions or hesitations, he leaned forward and kissed her. It was gentle at first, questioning, but when Maria responded by sliding her arms around his neck, the kiss deepened. His hands found her waist, drawing her closer, and Maria felt something inside her click into place, like the final piece of a puzzle she hadn't known she was solving. When they finally pulled apart, James rested his forehead against hers. I've been wanting to do that for months, he confessed. What took you so long? Maria teased, her heart so full she thought it might burst. Fear, mostly, he admitted. Fear of messing up our friendship. Fear of not being ready. Fear of Lily getting hurt if things didn't work out. And now? Maria asked. Now I'm still afraid, James said honestly. But I'm more afraid of not taking this chance with you. Because I think this could be something amazing. I think so too, Maria whispered, pulling him closer for another kiss. 6 months later, on a warm September evening, James, Lily, and Maria sat together on their usual park bench. It was the anniversary of the day Maria had first approached James in the diner parking lot, asking for his leftovers. Do you remember how embarrassed you were? James asked, his arm draped comfortably around Maria's shoulders. How could I forget? Maria groaned. I thought I'd hit rock bottom. Little did I know it was actually the beginning of everything good. I thought you were brave, James said, kissing her temple. Still do. In the past 6 months, their lives had become increasingly intertwined. Maria had moved many of her things into James's house, though she still kept her apartment for now. She was working full-time at Miller Construction while taking evening classes, on track to graduate with her accounting degree by the end of the year. Lily had adjusted to the changing relationship with remarkable ease, delighted to have Maria around more often. She had taken to introducing Maria to her friends as My Maria, a designation that never failed to make Maria's heart swell. Look what I found, James said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small, slightly battered takeout container from Hal's diner. I've been saving this for today. Maria laughed. Please tell me there's not 6-month-old food in there. No food, James promised. Something better. He handed the container to Maria. Open it. Confused but curious, Maria lifted the lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of tissue paper, was a small velvet box. Her breath caught in her throat as she looked up at James, who was watching her with nervous anticipation. James? It seemed fitting, he said softly, to use this to ask the most important question of my life. Lily, who had been suspiciously quiet, was now practically vibrating with excitement. Open it, Maria, open it! With trembling fingers, Maria picked up the velvet box and opened it. Inside was a delicate ring with a small but brilliant diamond. Simple, elegant, perfect. I know it hasn't been very long, James began, taking the ring from the box. But when you know, you know. And I've never been more certain of anything in my life. He took her hand in his. Maria Garcia, you came into our lives asking for leftovers, but what you gave us was a fresh start. A second chance at happiness. Would you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife and Lily's official mom? Tears welled in Maria's eyes. Yes, she whispered. Yes to all of it. As James slipped the ring onto her finger, Lily threw her arms around both of them. We're going to be a real family. We already are, sweetie, Maria told her, drawing her close. The paperwork just makes it official. Over Lily's head, Maria met James's eyes, seeing in them all the love and promise she felt in her own heart. From the depths of despair to this moment of perfect joy, all because she had found the courage to ask a kind stranger for his leftovers on a night when hope seemed lost. I love you, she mouthed silently. I love you too, he mouthed back. Always. Lily looked up at them both, her small face solemn. Mom would be happy, she said with the certainty only a child could possess. She always told me to look for the helpers when things are hard. And we found Maria. James hugged his daughter closer. Yes, we did, he agreed, his voice rough with emotion. Or maybe she found us. Either way, it's the best thing that ever happened to us. As the sun set over the park where their friendship had first deepened, the three of them sat together on their bench. No longer a man and his daughter and a lonely young woman, but a family, formed by kindness, strengthened by shared struggles, and bound together by love. And it had all started with leftovers.